Welcome, everybody, to podcast number 223. Are you showing up with the right emotional control when needed? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Hey, was anybody going to tell me that I labeled yesterday's podcast wrong? I labeled it at I think it was at 212, but it was really 222. Anyway, you guys got to check me out there. I mean, not you guys, you all got to check me out there. I was like, wait a minute, is tonight's podcast 213 or 223? What's going on here? Anyway, we're back on track. So podcast number 223. We are making progress. We are jamming. We are doing this training together. I really appreciate it. Tonight's topic I titled it "Win the War Without Fighting," but I was talking to a trusted colleague, a friend, and he was saying after we talked, unless it's a life or death situation, there really is no reason to get overly emotional about something. Meaning that there's a way to be calm in the moment and then handle it in a different way, in a really appropriate way. And that really stuck with me. I had some other things lined up for the Friday podcast for this week, but I was like, this is too good. Superintendents need it, and we really need to address this now. So the question is, are you showing up with the right emotional control when needed? Yes or no? So I'm just excited for life. I'm excited about what comes next. I'll tell you what comes next: progress for all of us. Somebody today asked me, how do you keep the motivation to progress? Well, my first answer was, I don't think that most of us lose motivation to progress. I think we just go on these highs and lows. And I had a really trusted mentor when I was working at DPR Construction as an employee who told me, Jason, your highs are high and your lows are lows. And you just have to know when that is and know when to get out of your lows, or at least tell somebody about it. So if somebody's asking, how do I keep motivated? It could be that you're just in a dark spot, in a low spot for a minute, and it's not a big deal. You just need to get out. You need to talk to somebody. You need to go jogging. You need to reinvent yourself. Go to the doctor, take your medication, get spiritually active again. But I'll tell you that one thing that is a surefire recipe to help you on your way up is to keep your commitment spiritually, whatever you've made. And that might mean religiously as well. I was talking to somebody today and answering this question directly. And I said, let me get a little bit vulnerable with you. There was a person, and I'll just tell you, he was a Baptist. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We all have different belief systems and opinions and things that we hold to, right? It's all different. We should all accept each other. We should all be tolerant about our diversity. And we should all really know that diversity in life is good, right? But he was a Baptist, and he asked me, hey, Jason, and he was working in construction management. And he said, what can I do to really make sure that I do well in this role? And I said, you know what? You're going to think it's funny, but and I had already knew that he was religious. I said, you can continue to read the Bible on the way to work in the morning. You can continue to pay your tithing. You can continue to do those things that you do that are aligned with your spiritual commitment. And that will keep your head up, headed towards heaven, headed towards home, headed towards your commitments, headed towards higher states of existence. And it will entice you to continually progress every day on this earth in what you're doing. And we had a nice little conversation about it. And he continued to read his scriptures in the morning on the way to work and did very, very well. Now, I'm going to get really vulnerable with you. I don't know why. I think I may know why, but I don't know why exactly. I just know that this is an observation. Throughout the years, I've attempted to start businesses with different people. Only been successful a few times, hired a lot of people, done a lot of work with people, and anytime they weren't keeping their own commitment, not my commitment, I'm not being judgy about this, their own commitment to their spirituality or to their religion, whether they're a Buddhist or a Hindu or Christian or Muslim or whatever it is, anytime they weren't keeping their own commitments, the commitments that they made, I'm not making this judgment, but the commitments that they made, it just never worked out. I don't know if it's providence. I don't know if it's a curse. I don't know if it's just that they weren't focused. I don't know if it's because they were out of the right mindset. I don't know if there was dissonance in their mind, but it never, ever, ever, ever works out in the end to the ultimate 100% sense of satisfaction in a person's life per their goals until they get their spiritual life, their religious life, if they are religious. Spirituality and religion are different. Until they get that straight. And so if you really want to make progress according to your own commitments, your own vision, your own purpose in life, and your own sense of self tied to and connected to the universe or the God that you worship or the institutions that you feel are going to make you better that you grew up with or you've chosen to align yourself with. I'm personally a convert in my religion and consider myself very religious, and I rely on inspiration for almost everything that I do. That's not pompous. That's not condescending. That's not arrogant. I'm just telling you that as somebody on your side of the fence, not on the other side of the fence, as somebody on your side of the fence, I'm saying, hey, we just do better when we do these things. And so I'm opening that to you today because giving is the key. And I've found it difficult. I've really found it difficult in life to teach or espouse in my own personal life the concept of giving without religion. And I'm sure that it can be done. Most of the time when I'm doing training or podcasts or whatever, I attempt in every way, shape, or form to teach the gospel, meaning the good news of good things, and the concept of giving that I've learned from my spirituality and religious teachings in a non-religious way, meaning just talk like everyday human beings talk. And so I'm always cautious about this, that if somebody abandons their own commitments for their own spirituality and their own religions, it just never really works out for some reason. And I really think that it's because we need that switch in our minds, that switch of giving, to focus us on giving to others instead of taking, which leads into bad directions. And so that's my little opening for today. So I've got a couple of little scaffolding things that I want to care for in the podcast before I get right down to it. So the first thing, I want to talk about a section that was going to make its way into, real quick, I forgot to tell you, I'm officially done with all of the writing and editing of Elevating Construction Tact Planning. Tomorrow it gets formatted and we will upload it to the KDB website and get that going, and audio recording is just jamming. So I hope that we get that on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. You're going to love that book. Seriously, it covers everything that generally that we need to know about scheduling and scheduling theory, tact planning, and leads right into Last Planner and Scrum. It doesn't detail Last Planner and Scrum and detail the systems themselves, but how to tie into it. So you're going to love that. Anyway, let's talk about what was going to be Principle 6 in Elevating Construction Superintendents, and this was titled Compliments to the Team. The vision of success for project superintendents and area or assistant superintendents as they walk the project is to provide compliments or give compliments and reinforce positive behaviors on the project site. There's nothing more gratifying than seeing a superintendent on a walkthrough connect with the workers and the foreman. There is something magical about the behaviors of an entire project aimed to please rather than disappoint and tear down. Positive shout-outs in huddles, rewards for good behavior, and taking crews to lunch with the project team when they achieve something remarkable is one of the best ways to build morale and inspire people towards a common goal. Superintendents should practice a reward system, complimenting workers in huddles or on a walkthrough, praising foremen for good leadership, and sending letters of appreciation to the owners of companies praising on-site workers, foremen, and superintendents. If everyone is appropriately following the rules and you can leverage this kind of leadership, the energy of your team will give you more productivity in everything that you do. And so I really believe in that. That was a neat little section. And actually, it ties into, in one way or another, the concept of today, which is that we need to win the war without fighting and really stay positive in everything that we do. So let's first talk about what am I excited about in life. Just finished the book. and also have plans to start a company called Lean Tact, which would be a consulting and training company that's specific to tax planning and scheduling systems, and that would have social media marketing that would be, search engine optimized specifically for tact and tax planning. They would lead people to that business specifically, and it would have simulations and games and books and resources and anything that we could find on tax planning to provide resources out there. It would have its own website. It would be linked through Elevate Construction, as an associated company, but really excited about that. I purchased the domain names, and we'll start working on that business soon. So that's pretty exciting. And also, I'm going to start storyboarding the revamping of the Elevate Construction IST website to make sure that it's focused now that we've been in business for a couple of months. And actually, the website's been up for 4 or 5. Anyway, so really excited about that. Talking about fans and feedback. Here's some that I got today. It was pretty neat. Jason, I just finished your book. I freaking love you, man. You have elevated my life in so many ways. Thank you for being you. And then there's a little thing in quotations that said the end. So you know who I'm talking about. I love you, bro. Anyway, then he said, I listened to the book and really enjoyed the audio version. I'm also grateful to have the hard copy so that I can flip back to the checklists and book references. If I had to say one area to improve, I would ask you to share more personal experiences with implementing some of these processes. You are the man. And I got 3 exclamation points. So super cool. I love that. Ooh, I got feedback the other day that said in my on the LinkedIn videos, I need to look at the camera. I realized I was looking at myself in the reflection of the phone, not on the camera, which is at the top of the iPhone when I hold it sideways. So Paul Akers told me that. I don't know why I didn't figure that out. But anyway, let's go on to it. The conflict for days. You don't have what word did I say? You don't have to speak out in the moment. Think it through before you get emotional. I really stumbled through that one. So there was a time when I was on a project and I was getting really upset about the air handlers and the fact that they weren't getting any closer to being commissioned than they were before. And I said, if these things don't start by such and such a date, I'm going to effing kill somebody. And I was like, anyway, totally bad, inappropriate behavior. There's no psychological safety with that. I probably should have been fired as soon as I said it, but I was just handling things the wrong way. Like the attitudes I was choosing to be triggered based on what some of the trade partner foreman supers were telling me, and my assumption that they didn't care or there was a lack of effort, right? And so my project executive, basically they called and told on me, which they should. And he was talking to me about it and was like, hey, what's up with this, Jason? And we were just going through this, and he knew that I loved war analogies, and I read books like the 33 Strategies of War and the Art of War, and I loved, General Patton and biographies and things like that. And he looked at me, had a moment of inspiration, and said, Jason, win the war without fighting. And that really stuck with me. And I knew what I had to do. Don't get in the moment and start yelling at people, but actually just, take care of it in a non-emotional, strategic way. And so it's funny, and I don't know if I've told you this story before, but some people at church had gone to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, and they brought back these little heart carvings. They're really smooth, and they were made from olive wood, and they were kind of a symbol of the atonement for Christians. Anyway, it was really neat, to symbolize the Garden of Gethsemane and the olive press. And so I thought they were neat. These people at church gave them to Katie. I think there were 2 of them. And I knew that I needed to remember to calm down in difficult situations. And I had also heard that having reminders could be helpful. So I started to carry around these little it was just one, a little wooden heart in my pocket, so that when I felt triggered about something and was feeling the stress of being a superintendent, I just felt it in my pocket and would choose to calm down and think about giving first and reframe it to where I would just win the war without fighting, win that situation without fighting, and think of the consequences first. And it really, really helped me a lot. I mean, I eventually it's funny. I was thinking the other day, when it comes to getting angry or having appropriate behavior, the way I talk to people, using these habits for about 60 days really reprogrammed me in all of these situations. And so after 60 days, I didn't need help with it anymore. But this was something that I had to do to get control of my emotions. The principle really, and it worked. And I started to be really calm and considerate. And I was a great from that moment on, I then became senior super and general super and really figured out that it was about people. And I just want to repeat what my friend said today. If it's not life or death, then in the situation, we don't have to start arguments. We don't have to chime in and be annoying. We don't have to chime in and be abrasive. We don't have to start a contentious meeting. We don't have to respond. We don't have to yell. We don't have to be angry. We don't have to throw a hard hat down. Win the war without fighting. So let me just tell you a brief excerpt, I guess. I don't even know if that's what you do on a podcast, but just for a brief moment, in Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War, what he says is that Master Sun says the great generals would win the war without fighting, meaning they would outmaneuver, out-strategize. They would turn enemies against other enemies to where they would fight. But the greatest generals would win the war without fighting. And he said less skilled generals would go to war and then figure out how to win the battle and would do it through fighting. But the best generals would win the war without fighting. And that's a military concept. That's a war concept. That's a general concept. And so I really think we should learn from that. If we just pull back a little bit, I had lunch today with my buddy Jake Williams. I love that man. He's reading a book right now that talks about if you can just pull back a little and think about a situation first, even 25%, even if you leave 75% of the situation is emotional, if you can just appeal to that little bit, that first 25% of your mind that says, okay, let me calm down, let me get clarity, let me get the context, and then go follow the advice in the book, Leadership and Self-Deception, which I recommend to anybody, then you can actually go do the next right thing. Is it Anna or Elsa in Frozen 2 that sings, just go do the next right thing? If you're able to pull back, think about it for a minute and do that, then you'll be able to script your next moves and just go do the next right thing. In fact, if there was a superintendent or somebody that has trouble with this where you're like, well, but it's wrong, so I'm going to speak up, and you have a tendency of annoying people or coming across arrogant or coming across as unapproachable, or, you're being abrasive in situations, I would say have a reminder, put something in your pocket, and then have a little notepad, and then script your next moves based on this criteria. Based on this criteria. What can I do next that still accomplishes my goal, but wins the war without fighting? And then script the moves. Somebody was saying, if somebody was in a meeting was being abrasive, I could say, thank you for your input and keep moving on without responding. Or I could respond and get into an argument. Or I could, option C, D, E, or F. Or somebody, stab me in the back on a project site. Should I go engage and start a fight? Or should I set up meeting systems that neutralizes the situation? Should I talk to that person one-on-one when I'm calm? Or, option C, D, E, or F. In the moment, am I going to fight this out, or am I going to think of consequences? Or am I going to think of what are my next moves? If you're in a situation, if you've attacked me, Jason Schroeder, or there's a difficult situation, and you see me sit back and my eyes look up to the left, and I look like I'm thinking, watch out, because I'm immediately instead of engaging with you in a negative way and fighting with you, I'm immediately thinking how I can beat you without fighting. I'm thinking about what my next move. I can't talk tonight. What in the world is my problem? I'm thinking about what my next move is. I'm thinking about how I can outmaneuver you, not against you, but to get a win-win for both of us, but to bypass your bad and stupid behavior. I'm just kidding. I'm not accusing you. Anyway, I'm just saying, if you see me go into think mode, it's because I've taught myself through these habits to script the next moves and to not engage in battle with you, but to get done what needs to be done anyway. I will bypass the situation. If somebody's acting in an aggressive way or sheepishly or foolishly, I'll just neutralize the situation by actively doing something that brings about the right answer for a win-win. And that is key. I'm not looking for a win for me and a lose for you or whoever I'm dealing with. I'm looking for a win-win. And if I engage in this stupid situation, then it's a lose-lose for both of us. We both get muddy. So if you've had a situation where when you engage, you offend people, think about it like this. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. Now, there's times when you have to have healthy conflict, but I want to make that clear. You only have healthy conflict when you're actually in a team. You're not actually with your team all the time. You're just with people and acquaintances. And so you don't want to engage in that healthy conflict all the time, especially if you're making people mad, unless you're in your team. Really, the only model you should follow is the how to win friends and influence people model of the only way to win an argument is to avoid it. And that's true. So script your next moves. The other thing that I would say is if I could take a book, turn it into a liquid, and then inject it into or put it into the water source of everybody on earth, it would be How to Win Friends and Influence People. Every superintendent needs to listen to that book every 6 months until they start talking like the book, until they start thinking like the book, until they start reacting like the book. Because it's the single best book I've ever found to win friends and influence people. The other book is Leadership and Self-Deception. I recommend both of them. But if a superintendent will do that, make that book a study right now, and also learn how to not get triggered through the book Leadership and Self-Deception. And if that superintendent or project manager, whoever in construction, can have a good morning routine that aligns with their religious and spiritual commitments, that focuses that person on being grateful and giving every day, then they can really win. You know, the current condition is there are some brilliant senior and general superintendents out there. I remember a general superintendent, and I won't mention their name, who kicked down a door one time of a project engineer, really got into a lot of trouble, had to apologize, and got put in the doghouse for a while because of his intemperate behavior. And he was one of the best general superintendents that I've ever heard of or been around. But the lack of giving, the lack of focus there, the lack of being calm and collected in the moment really got him in trouble. It also got General Patton in trouble when he slapped those 2 soldiers with his intemperate behavior. Great general, one of the best generals arguably in American combat history, got put in the doghouse for bad behavior. We have to know that we are not beyond reproach, above reproach in these situations. And if we and I, as supers and as field leaders, think that we have everybody caged in the fact that they need us to run their jobs, think again. We're in a world where you can be punished, will and should be punished for any of your intemperate behavior, like I have been in the past. And so we have to get this reined in. So my challenge is show up in the moment, win the war without fighting, take a moment to think it through, script your next moves, on we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.